Enlightenment ideals in the colonies. Regarding social mobility, 13 colonies had vast amounts of land, but there were not enough people to own it all, and it was extremely easy to move up and down the social classes. There were several aristocracies formed, which prioritized production over the amount of land that was owned. The 13 colonies were almost opposite of England's social classes, where England had very strict classes that were not easily changed. Somewhat, there was religious toleration in the colonies. There was an attempt at declaring the Church of England as the official religion, but it was ignored and failed. There were too many different religions introduced to actually pick one as the official religion. Catholics were persecuted and disliked because of how much that they feared the Pope. The Jews were also hated and discouraged, and they were actually not allowed to practice it, and they were only allowed to do it in secret. There was decreasing piety in the 13 colonies. The spread of land caused a decrease in piety because they could not continue to organize any religious meetings. Religion was also doubted due to drastic scientific discoveries and rapid curiosity. The Puritans saw a detrimental drop in piety, where they thought that there was a possible collapse occurring. Religion was in fact still strong, but there was not up to the standards of the Puritans. They compared it to past success, and this was not up to their standards. Because of how scarce and expensive books were, almanacs had to be introduced to the 13 colonies. They held information from science, arts, and literature. Education was highly valued by the colonists, and in Massachusetts in 1647, a law was put in place which made each town hold at least one public school. Although this wasn't fulfilled by each town, over 100 schools were put in place. Among white men, reading and writing was much more common, although women did not learn this skill yet. Previously stated, piety and a decrease in religiousness was brought in. Theocracy was ignored in many universities where scientific discoveries overtook. This knowledge was requested by many and craved by most. Astronomy became a very well-known topic in the scientific realm. Many people thought it was very interesting that scientific discoveries could be made, and this raised doubt over religion. John Locke was a leading inspiration to the ideology of the colonies during the Enlightenment. He was the spark of most questions and topics that would be discussed during this time.
Science and technology in the colonies. Some of the major scientific advancements included Cotton Mather's method of fighting smallpox inoculation. Other scientific pursuits included Copernican astronomy, Newtonian physics, and Benjamin Franklin's discovery of electricity. Electricity and Ben Franklin. Benjamin Franklin's discovery of electricity had a lasting impact in America. Although electricity was not used until further down the line, his experiments with electricity would revolutionize life in America. Ben Franklin had earned the title of the first American because of his Renaissance man lifestyle. He was a statesman, scientist, and writer. Smallpox inoculation. John Mather's method of using smallpox inoculation to immunize people from smallpox was very successful, and other theologians like Jonathan Edwards had also used this method to immunize people after the smallpox epidemic in the 1720s. Ever since John Mather's studies and the wide acceptance of his theory, inoculation has become a common medical practice in the form of vaccines. The scientific and technological advances in colonial society led to a higher quality of life and more innovation. Colonial colleges and their origins. Religious organizations founded many colonial universities. Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Columbia were all created with the primary purpose of educating the ministry. Even though Columbia was a sectarian university because it was founded by the Anglican Trinity Church in New York, the university still studied and contributed to spreading secular knowledge. Although the University of Pennsylvania provided a non-sectarian education, this was not the standard for colleges in colonial America. Its existence played a crucial role in spreading utilitarian and non-sectarian education. Colonial colleges and their importance. Harvard, founded in 1636, was the first American university, and it was founded by the General Court of Massachusetts with the purpose of educating the Puritan ministry. Harvard was a strong supporter of Copernican astronomy and believed astrology was a pagan superstition. They also supported secularism. King's College, later renamed Columbia, was founded in 1754 in New York. Columbia University was a huge supporter of secularism and offered an almost entirely non-sectarian education, even though it was founded by a religious organization, the Anglican Trinity Church. The College of Philadelphia, later renamed the University of Pennsylvania, was founded in 1755 and it was fully secular. This non-sectarian education was offered because the founders were laymen inspired by Benjamin Franklin, a science man rather than a theologian. The University of Pennsylvania's courses on utilitarian subjects, including mechanics, chemistry, agriculture, government, commerce, modern languages, and liberal arts, had another impact on colonial education. Not only did the University of Pennsylvania offer utilitarian subjects, but they also became the site of the first medical school in British America by 1765. Ultimately, colonial universities promoted secularism by providing non-sectarian educations and becoming a vital part of advancing science and technology.
John Peter Zenger was a New York columnist that published criticism on England and its policies. In the court hearing, it was justified and caused a change to the freedom of the press. They could now publicly criticize England if it was in fact correct and justified. Most colonial governors were Englishmen sent to America. In some cases, they were native-born Americans. The Englishmen were usually unaware of colony's status and foreign to the land. Because of how far away England was, Parliament could not enforce laws, and they became somewhat independent. The colonial legal system was very similar to England in the beginning. They had similar rights like freedom of the press and freedom to trial by jury. However, court hearings and punishments were very different. They could not waste potential workers, so instead of sending them to prison, they would whip them, send them to the stocks, or use the branding iron on them. There were many relationships with England. They had adopted many similar ideas in government and other ideas. They were able to simulate self-government to an extent because England could not enforce most laws and policies on them. Colonial assemblies had imitated that of English Parliament, where they had very similar ideas and executions.